They gave me the night porter job because I move quietly and I don't ask questions. A hospital at night is a perfect place to feed. The lights are dimmed, the corridors stretch like pale intestines, and everyone inside is already halfway surrendered, drugged, exhausted, grieving, or praying. The living don't look too closely here. They're trained not to. My uniform was clean. My badge was real. The keys on my belt were heavy enough to sound official when I walked. The rule for my shift was simple. Keep the halls clear, escort anyone lost, and never leave the security desk unattended after 3 a.m. The supervisor told me that last part with a nervous smile, as if it was a joke. I clocked in at 11 p.m. and watched the building settle. Machines beeped in distant rooms. A mop bucket squeaked across tile. Somewhere, a child coughed until it became a sob. I waited. At 2:37 a.m., the intercom cracked above the desk. "Porter to Ward C," a nurse said. "We've got a patient wandering." Her tone was tired, irritated, the way humans sound when they've seen too much suffering to treat it like a miracle anymore. I took the wheelchair and rolled it down the corridor. The wheels whispered over the floor, soft as breath. The air smelled like antiseptic and warm plastic. Every so often, a door sighed open and shut on its own slow hinge, like the building was blinking. Ward C was darker than the rest. One of the overhead lights flickered in a steady, sick rhythm. At the far end of the hallway stood a man in a thin hospital gown, barefoot, his hands trembling at his sides. He looked ordinary. That was the important part. A real human body, real fear. When he saw me, his face flooded with relief. "Thank God," he whispered, like the words were holding him up. I can't find my room." I stopped the wheelchair a few feet away, close enough to seem helpful, far enough to let him feel the space between us. "What's your name?" I asked. He swallowed. His throat clicked. Daniel Rojas." "All right, Daniel," I said, soft and professional. "Let's get you back." He took 2 steps toward me, then hesitated, eyes drifting over my shoulder toward the dark behind me. "Did you hear that?" he asked. I listened, pretending. There was nothing but the hospital's breathing, vents, distant beeps, a soft rattle of a cart somewhere. "No," I lied. He nodded quickly, like he wanted to accept it, like denial was a blanket. "I keep hearing someone walking," he said. "But every time I look, the hall is empty." I gave him the smile that makes people trust me, the one that says you're safe now. "Night makes everything sound louder," I said. "Come on, sit down." He didn't sit. He stepped closer instead, and I could see the sweat along his hairline, the fine tremor in his fingers. "I woke up and the bed was wet," he whispered. Not like that. Like someone spilled water. And the room smelled like pennies. Blood, I thought, pleased. He lowered his voice as if the walls might hear him. I called for the nurse. Nobody came. Then the door opened by itself. His eyes were wide, shining. I walked out, and the sign from my room, it was gone. I've been walking for I don't know how long. I keep ending up here." He glanced back again, and this time I saw it. The moment his mind tried to build a shape out of the fear. His shoulders rose, his breath shortened. "Please," he said, "just take me somewhere with people." I nodded. "Of course." I turned the wheelchair around and began to push it down the hall, empty, squeaking softly, making him follow me like a child following a parent. We passed a nurse's station with the lights off, chairs empty, monitors dark. He noticed, and his steps slowed. "Where is everyone?" he asked. "Night break," I said. We passed an elevator that sat open, its interior black. A little sign above it read, "Out of service." Daniel stopped walking. "That wasn't open before," he whispered. I kept pushing the wheelchair, never looking back. "It's nothing," I said. "Keep up." He hurried after me. His bare feet slapped the tile, too loud, too desperate. His breathing turned wet. Then I led him through a door that was not marked for public use. A service corridor, concrete walls, exposed pipes. The smell changed immediately. Cold dampness, rust, and something faintly sweet underneath. Daniel froze in the doorway. "No," he said, shaking his head. "No, this isn't." I turned to face him. My smile was still there, but now it had no warmth in it, just intent. "You wanted somewhere with people," I said. "This is where the hospital keeps what's left of them." He backed away, and the back of his shoulders hit the door frame. His eyes darted to the hall behind him. Behind him, the corridor we'd come from was longer now, darker. The lights farther away than they should be. The hospital had already started helping me. Daniel's voice cracked. "What are you?" he whispered. I stepped close enough to smell his fear. Sharp, sour, alive. "I'm the part of the night you kept listening for," I told him. The footsteps. He tried to run. Of course he did. Humans always try one last time. I caught him by the wrist, and his skin was hot under my grip. I pulled him into the service corridor with a single smooth motion, like dragging a sheet off a bed. His mouth opened into a scream. I pressed my other hand over it, firm, almost gentle, and leaned into his ear. "Quiet," I said. "This is a hospital. People are trying to sleep." Then I took my time. When I rolled the empty wheelchair back to the desk, the wheels were clean. The hallway lights steadied. The machines kept beeping, indifferent. At 3:01 a.m., I signed the logbook with steady handwriting and wrote one line beneath my name. "If you wander at night, the hospital will find you help." And I smiled because it was true. They hired me because I looked harmless. A calm face, steady hands, polite answers. Humans love that. They confuse quiet with safety. The job was simple. Night security in an old office building downtown. Long corridors, outdated cameras, keys that squealed in old locks. On my first shift, the day guard handed me a logbook and tapped one line written in thick black marker. "If you hear someone in the basement at 2:15 a.m, do not open the guardroom door." He didn't laugh when he said it. His eyes were dry, exhausted, like he'd already paid for the warning. I nodded. I promised. I meant none of it. At 2:12 a.m. the building was a stomach, quiet, waiting. I watched the monitors and listened to the vents breathe. At 2:14, the basement camera flickered once and stabilized. The corridor down there was empty. Pipes, damp floor, bare concrete walls. Nothing moved. Then the sound came. Footsteps. Not on the stairs. Not in the hallway. Under my floorboards, directly beneath the guard room, slow and deliberate, as if someone was walking on the underside of the world. My mouth stayed relaxed. My heartbeat stayed polite. But inside me, something stretched awake, pleased. At exactly 2:15, there were 3 knocks on the guardroom door. Soft, controlled. The kind of knock someone gives when they don't want to look desperate. A man's voice followed, strained and careful. "Hello? Please. I'm locked in. I'm stuck in the building." He sounded young, maybe late 20s, breathing too fast. Afraid, but trying not to show it. I moved close to the door, letting him hear the small sound of my chair scraping back. "What floor are you on?" I asked. "Basement," he admitted, and the word broke slightly on the last syllable. So he told the truth. Good. That made it easier. "I can help," I said. "Just stay there." There was a shaky exhale on the other side. Relief. It always comes before the pain. Humans can't help themselves. I unlocked the door. He stepped in like a man stepping into shelter. Hoodie, work badge, pale face. He looked at me like I was a lifeboat. His eyes kept flicking past my shoulder into the darkness, as if he expected something to follow him. "There's something wrong down there," he whispered. I studied him, not as a person, as a resource. "What happened?" I asked, because it pleased me to make him say it. "I heard footsteps," he said. Then the elevator opened by itself. The lights, his voice stuttered. The lights went out for a second, and when they came back, I couldn't find the stairs. I just kept walking and walking, and it was the same hallway. I thought I was going to die down there. You were, I thought. You still are. I smiled gently. I kept my face warm. I let him believe. "You're safe now," I said. His shoulders dropped. His body loosened. He stepped closer. That's the moment I always wait for, the instant a human gives themselves permission to stop fighting. I closed the guardroom door behind him. The click of the latch was loud in the quiet. He turned his head, confused, and that confusion widened into fear when he saw my expression change. Not into a snarl, not into anything dramatic, just empty, focused, hungry. What are you doing?" he asked. I didn't answer with words. I stepped forward and placed my hand against his chest. I felt his heart hammering, real, alive, perfect. Then I pushed, not hard, precise. My fingers sank through skin like it wasn't a barrier at all, and his breath collapsed into a sound that wasn't a scream yet, just disbelief turning into agony. His eyes bulged, his knees buckled. Warmth flooded my hand. The room filled with the thick metallic smell of him. I leaned in close to his ear. "You should have stayed in the basement," I whispered calmly. "Down there, you only had to be lost." His mouth opened. A red line formed at the corner of his lips. He tried to speak my name, like knowing it would save him. It didn't. When it was done, I lowered him gently to the floor like I was putting a child to bed. I wiped my hand on my uniform sleeve and sat back down in my chair. At 2:18, the building went quiet again. I opened the logbook and wrote one more rule beneath the first. If you hear knocking at 2:15 a.m., don't open the door. Not because something is outside, because I'm already inside. The city thinks the metro sleeps when the last train leaves. It doesn't. It just stops pretending to be polite. I took the maintenance night shift because it gave me access to the parts of the world people don't notice. The service tunnels, the locked doors, the emergency stairwells that smell like wet stone and old electricity. Places where a scream can travel for a long time without ever reaching anyone who cares. My uniform was orange, reflective, official. My keyring was heavy. My radio crackled with bored voices and routine lies. The rule for the shift was written on a laminated card clipped to the toolbox. If a service door opens without a request, lock it and report it. Do not enter the tunnel alone. Humans love rules. They write them like prayers. They think words can keep teeth away. At 1:32 a.m., the control room pinged my radio. "Maintenance 3, a dispatcher said. "We've got a door alarm at Sance, service access B17. It shows as open." I answered in the calm, flat tone they expect. "On my way." They sent me because I was the newest, because I didn't complain, because I looked like someone who could be sacrificed without paperwork. The station was closed. The shutters were down. The escalators were dead and still, like frozen tongues. My boots echoed through the empty concourse as I walked past advertisement posters peeling at the corners. The air down there is different at night, cooler, denser. It carries every sound like a secret. B17 was at the end of a staff-only corridor behind a keypad door. I punched in my code, pushed through, and followed the narrow hallway to the service access. The metal door stood open by a few centimeters. A thin slice of blackness stared back at me. I didn't rush. I never rush. I have all the time the living are desperate to keep. I set my toolbox down and looked at the door like I was annoyed, like this was just another broken sensor. "Hello?" I called, because the script matters to them. No answer. I should have locked it and reported it. That's what the laminated card said. That's what the training videos said. That's what every terrified instinct in a human body would scream if it had the authority. But humans don't run their own bodies. Curiosity does. I pushed the door open. The tunnel air rolled over me. Damp concrete, old dust, a faint metallic tang from the rails. My flashlight beam carved a pale path forward, catching droplets on the wall, like tiny eyes. A sound came from deeper inside, soft, careful. Footsteps. One pair, slow, measured, not running, not stumbling, walking, as if whoever was down there knew exactly where they were going. I clicked my radio. "Control," I said, steady. "I'm at B-17. I'm hearing movement in the tunnel, possibly a trespasser." The radio hissed, then the dispatcher replied, "Copy. Do you need backup?" I stared into the tunnel and smiled. "No," I said. "I can handle it." I stepped inside and let the door swing shut behind me. The latch didn't click. It didn't need to. The tunnel swallowed the sound anyway. I followed the footsteps. The beam of my flashlight bounced over cables and emergency signage. Exit arrows pointed towards stairwells that should have existed at regular intervals. I walked past the first one. The door was there, exactly where it should be. Green sign above it, handle intact. But when I tugged it, it didn't move. Locked. I tried again. Harder. Nothing. A thin line of cold slid down my spine. Not fear, pleasure. The system was cooperating. The footsteps ahead stopped. Silence. Then a voice echoed back through the tunnel. "Hey, thank God," it called. "I'm here. I'm stuck." Male. Young. Real. I kept walking until my flashlight found him. He stood near the wall, hands raised slightly, palms open to show he wasn't a threat. High-vis vest like mine. Work boots. A toolbox at his feet. A human maintenance worker. His eyes were bloodshot and wide. "I don't know how I got here," he said quickly. "I was checking a signal box, and the door, it just opened, and I thought someone was inside. Then it shut, and I couldn't get back. My radio's dead. Please, can you guide me out?" He tried to laugh, but it came out like a choke. I studied him. The sweat on his upper lip, the tremor in his fingers, the relief that flooded his face when he saw my uniform, my badge, my light. He thought I was the solution. That's the sweetest part. "Of course," I said. "Stay close." He nodded too fast and grabbed his toolbox. We walked together, my flashlight leading, his steps tight behind mine. After 20 meters, he glanced back. "Was that door always there?" he asked. I didn't answer. Because behind us, the tunnel was longer than it should have been. The curve was wrong. The signage repeated, same exit arrow, same grime pattern, as if we'd walked in a circle. His breathing sped up. "Wait," he said. No, we passed that sign already." I stopped. I turned slowly to face him. The light from my flashlight hit his face from below, carving fear into his features like a mask. "What's your name?" I asked. "Geordie," he whispered. "Geordie, why are you asking that? Just get me out." I took one step closer. My voice stayed calm, almost kind. "There is no out," I said. "Not at this hour. Not for you." His mouth opened, and his eyes flicked wildly to the doors, to the rails, to the blackness behind my shoulders. "What to you?" he breathed. I smiled in the dark. "I'm the reason the alarms go off," I said. "I'm the reason they laminated that rule." He backed away, nearly tripping over his own toolbox. He raised the metal handle like a weapon, desperate and pathetic. Stay away. I moved faster than his mind could track. One smooth motion, a hand around his throat, lifting him just enough to steal his balance. His boots scraped concrete. His face turned red instantly. He kicked, flailing. The tunnel ate the sound. I leaned in close, my mouth near his ear, my voice a quiet instruction. Don't waste your breath, I told him. Nobody can hear you down here. That's why you were invited. His eyes rolled, wet and wide, and I took my time. Above us, the city kept sleeping. At 2:46 a.m., Control called my radio again. The dispatcher's voice crackled through the static. Maintenance 3, status? I pressed the talk button and answered in a steady tone, standing alone in the tunnel. False alarm, I said. Door secured. Returning now. Then I clipped the radio back to my vest and walked deeper into the dark where the rules don't reach.